INFJs are quiet, deep thinkers. They care about people and often lead with empathy. But what many miss is how mentally strong they are. Their mind is their most guarded space. INFJs think carefully, feel deeply, and act only when they are sure. This makes them hard to control and impossible to break once they understand what's happening. When someone tries to manipulate an INFJ, they may seem successful at first. INFJs often give people the benefit of the doubt. They want to believe others have good intentions. But as soon as someone starts pushing into their inner world, trying to shape their thoughts or control their choices, the INFJ begins to change. They become alert, they begin to question, and slowly they shut down the access. INFJs don't fight in obvious ways. They defend themselves with insight, distance, and truth. They don't need to yell or threaten. Instead, they use their intelligence to break the pattern from the inside out. This video will go through 6 specific ways INFJs destroy attempts at mind control. These are real strategies. All is subtle but strong. Each one is a clear message. You do not control me. INFJs may not be loud, but they are steady. They hold on to what they know. And when someone tries to take that away, they don't fall. They build a wall the other person can't climb. Now let's look at the first way they protect their mind and stop manipulation in its tracks. Way number 1. Trusting their intuition. INFJs rely heavily on their intuition. It's their strongest tool and one of their first defenses against control. Long before something becomes obvious, the INFJ already senses it. They might not be able to explain it right away, but they feel something isn't right. That feeling guides them. It keeps them alert. When someone tries to control an INFJ, it rarely happens in big, clear moments. It's usually slow and subtle. The person might act helpful, offer advice, or ask a lot of personal questions. On the surface, it looks normal, but inside, the INFJ notices a shift, a tone, a pause. A pattern. It doesn't add up. Most people ignore that first feeling. They call it doubt or nerves, but not the INFJ. They listen to it. They take a step back. They start watching more closely. They stop sharing as much. They replay conversations. They test things silently. This is how INFJs begin to resist control. It starts with their mind pulling back. They question what's being said. They look at the intent behind it. And their inner voice starts telling them, be careful. Controllers rely on confusion. They want their target to stay unsure. But INFJs don't stay unsure for long. Their intuition starts building a case. Each small red flag gets added to the mental list. And once that list is long enough, the INFJ knows exactly what they're dealing with. They might not react right away, but inside, the decision has already been made. Their guard is up, their eyes are open, and the other person no longer has the power they once did. This is what makes INFJs so dangerous to manipulators. You can't control someone who sees what you're doing before you even finish doing it. INFJs are often 5 steps ahead. They may act calm on the outside, but inside, they're already moving away from the trap. And when INFJs trust that feeling, when they say, this doesn't feel right, they don't need anyone else to confirm it. They believe their own senses. That kind of self-trust is rare, and it's a solid defense. Sometimes they'll bring it up. They'll say, why did you say that? Or, that didn't sit right with me. Other times, they'll say nothing and just disappear. Either way, the controller loses access. Over time, INFJs fine-tune the skill. Every time they listen to their gut and it proves right, they learn to listen faster the next time. They waste less time giving chances to the wrong people. And the best part? They don't argue or explain it's God's plan. They don't try to change the manipulator. They just stop playing the game. The INFJ's silence and distance say everything. That's how they win. Quietly, clearly, intuitively. Once that inner voice speaks, and they choose to listen, it's over. Way number 2. Setting firm boundaries. After an INFJ trusts their intuition and sees what's going on, their next move is to set boundaries. This is not done to punish, it's done to protect. And when INFJs draw a line, it usually doesn't move again. Setting boundaries is not easy for INFJs. They are natural helpers. They care about others, and they want to avoid conflict. But when someone keeps pushing into their space or trying to influence their thinking, the INFJ changes. Their kindness shifts into strength. The first thing they do is stop giving full access. They stop explaining everything. They stop sharing every thought. If someone asks for more than they're willing to give, they say no. Calmly, firmly, without apology. They might say things like, "That's not something I'm okay with," or "I don't want to talk about that." These words are simple, but powerful. They tell the other person that the INFJ is not going to be controlled. Controllers hate boundaries. They want open access. They want to ask anything, say anything, and get full emotional feedback. INFJ shut that down, not by yelling, but by removing the connection piece by piece. At first, the manipulator might push back. They might act confused. They might say the INFJ is being too sensitive or distant. But that doesn't work anymore. The INFJ isn't reacting emotionally. They're acting from a place of self-respect. And that's what really shifts the power. When INFJ stop reacting and start setting rules, they move from being managed to being in charge. They no longer ask, "Is this okay?" They say, "This is what I will allow." The person trying to control them loses ground fast. They find that the emotional door they used to walk through is now locked. And the INFJ is standing on the other side, quiet but firm. Over time, these boundaries grow stronger. The INFJ sees how healthy it feels to have space, to say no, to not explain every decision, and they realize they don't need anyone's permission to protect their peace. This new way of living becomes the norm. People who respect their boundaries stay. Those who try to break them are slowly removed. And this shift, this refusal to allow mental access, is one of the clearest signs the INFJ has taken full control. The controller no longer has influence. And that boundary, it doesn't get lowered again. Way number 3, seeking support and validation. NFJs spend a lot of time thinking alone. They trust their mind and they process everything deeply. But when someone starts messing with their head, twisting facts, changing the story, or making them question themselves, INFJs know they can't stay in isolation. That's when they reach out. This is not something they do easily. INFJs don't like opening up to just anyone, but they have a small group of people they trust. When their thoughts feel cloudy or heavy, they go to that trusted friend, therapist, or family member and talk it through. They say what happened, how it felt, and what they're starting to notice. Controllers often use doubt as a weapon. They make the INFJ feel confused. They say things like, "You're imagining it," or "That's not how it happened." Over time, this starts to shake the INFJ's confidence. But when they speak to someone outside the situation, it helps. That outside voice often says something clear like, "No, that's wrong," or "That's not how people should treat you." Just hearing that can flip a switch. The INFJ starts seeing the truth more clearly. They remember that they're not too sensitive. They're not overthinking. What they felt was real, and the person who tried to make them question it was wrong. This outside support also gives INFJs the strength to act. Once they feel validated, they stop second-guessing. They're more ready to set harder limits or even walk away. That voice they hear from someone they trust becomes part of their own voice too. It gets stronger every time. But support doesn't just come from people. INFJs are learners. They'll go online. They'll read books or articles about manipulation, gaslighting, and psychological abuse. And what they read often matches what they felt. That knowledge becomes armor. They also might listen to stories from others, people who've gone through similar experiences. Those stories remind them they're not alone. And if someone else got through it, they can too. What makes this tactic powerful is that it takes back control. The manipulator wants the INFJ to stay unsure, but support and validation rebuild the INFJ's certainty. They return to their center. They stop doubting what they know. This is when the controller starts to lose. The INFJ no longer reacts with fear or guilt. They stand on what they know is real. They speak less, but more clearly. They don't argue, they just speak. And with every conversation and book or reminder, their mental space becomes clear again. INFJs also remember who they were before the control started. They reconnect with their values, their goals, and their peace. They realize that any voice trying to pull them away from that center doesn't belong in their life. By seeking support and validation, INFJs reclaim their truth. And once they do, there's no going back. Way number 4, practicing emotional detachment. When a manipulator tries to control someone's mind, they usually go through emotions. They want to make the other person feel bad, confused, or dependent. But INFJs are emotionally aware. They feel deeply, but they also know when to step back and protect themselves. This is where emotional detachment comes in. Emotional detachment doesn't mean the INFJ turns cold. It means they stop showing their emotions to people who don't deserve them. They stop letting those people use their emotions as tools. When a manipulator says something to get a reaction, the INFJ doesn't give them one. For example, the manipulator might say something like, "You always mess things up," or "You're lucky I even care." In the past, the INFJ might have responded with hurt or confusion, but now they hear it and pause. Instead of reacting, they go quiet. They think, "That's not about me, that's about control." That pause is everything. It stops the emotional loop. It takes the power away from the manipulator. Without a reaction, the controller has nothing to work with. INFJs also begin to separate the emotion from the facts. They ask themselves, what is actually true here? They notice how they feel, but they don't let those feelings run the show. They stay steady. Even in private, they don't let themselves spiral. They journal, take quiet walks, or meditate. They do what they need to do to stay calm. They create distance between themselves and the emotional storm. This is where they win. Controllers expect chaos, they expect drama, but the INFJ gives them calm, and that calm breaks the pattern. The INFJ might still care, but they care from a distance. They stop letting the other person inside their emotional world. That space becomes clean and quiet. It belongs to them again. And when someone can't control how you feel, they can't control what you think. That's how INFJs keep their mind safe, by not handing over their heart to the wrong person. Way number 5, utilizing strategic disengagement. Sometimes the best move isn't loud, it's silent. That's what INFJs know better than most. When a person keeps trying to control their mind, even after red flags have been seen, INFJs start the process of strategic disengagement. This means slowly, quietly pulling away. They don't announce it. They don't make a big scene. They just stop feeding the connection. They reply slower to text. They don't pick up every call. They become less available. They might change the subject in conversations or stop sharing personal thoughts. At first, it's small, but over time, the manipulator feels it, the distance. This works because most controllers depend on constant access. They want to know what the INFJ is thinking and feeling at all times. That's how they stay in control. But when the INFJ pulls back, that power starts to fade. Strategic disengagement is not cold. It's thoughtful. INFJs use this tactic when they're planning a bigger move, like setting a boundary, ending the relationship, or making a clean break. They know it's coming, and this step helps them prepare. It also gives them space to think clearly. The less time they spend reacting, the more time they spend reflecting. They ask, what do I want? What's healthy for me? That inner work is key to taking back full control. Sometimes the controller tries to push harder. They notice the change and panic. But by then, the INFJ is already mentally gone. They may still smile or reply politely, but the emotional bond is broken. The manipulator is talking to a wall. Eventually, the INFJ makes the break official. But the real separation started long before that. The slow retreat was the warning. And by the time the controller realizes it, it's already over. Strategic disengagement protects the INFJ's energy. It helps them move away from control without a fight. And it gives them the power to leave on their own terms. Way number 6, implementing the door slam. INFJs are patient. They forgive more than they should. They give people space to explain, grow, and change. But when someone keeps crossing the line, keeps trying to take over their thoughts, keeps ignoring every quiet signal, they hit a wall. That wall is the INFJ door slam. The INFJ door slam is not just walking away. It's cutting a person off completely. It's quiet but final. It's not meant to hurt, it's meant to protect. And when it happens, the INFJ is done. This doesn't happen overnight. By the time they reach this point, the INFJ has already gone through all the steps. They've trusted their gut. They've set boundaries. They've pulled back emotionally. They've talked it through. They've even tried to see the good in the other person. But once they realize that none of it is working, and the other person is still trying to control them, they make the choice. No announcement. No last warning. just action. They stop answering calls. They don't reply to texts. They block, delete, and disconnect. Social media? Gone. Shared plans? Cancelled. The door is shut and there's no way back in. People who try to control others usually expect more time. They think they'll get another chance. But with an INFJ, once that door is closed, it's locked. They do not reopen it later. To outsiders, this might seem extreme. But to the INFJ, it's survival. They have reached their limit. And once they reach it, there's no drama. Just silence. They're not punishing, they're protecting their mind from further damage. The INFJ door slam is so effective because it's total. It removes all access. And for someone who depends on control, all access is everything. Take that away, and they have nothing left to work with. After the door slam, INFJs usually go quiet. They reflect. They heal. They don't talk about the person much. They don't vent or seek revenge. They simply focus on their peace. They return to themselves. This is not coldness. This is clarity. It's a way of saying, you will not live in my head anymore. And for INFJs, that is the most important line to protect. Sometimes the person tries to come back. They might send messages, try guilt or act sweet, but the INFJ remembers why the door closed. They remember the confusion, the pressure, the emotional drain, and they do not forget. This memory isn't about holding a grudge. It's about guarding their future. The INFJ has already rebuilt their boundaries, reclaimed their thoughts, and regained their calm. They're not going to risk it again. The door slam is the final step in destroying someone's control. It's not just cutting contact. It's removing the person from their mental world. The controller no longer has a voice, no longer has space. They are out, and what's left is silence, strength, peace. The INFJ stands alone, not broken, not bitter, but clear and calm. The person who tried to take control, gone. And for the INFJ, that's exactly how it should stay. INFJs do not look for fights. They do not try to destroy people. But when someone tries to control their mind, when someone pushes too far for too long, INFJs don't back down. They rise up, quietly, clearly, without losing themselves. We've seen how they do it. They trust their deep instincts. They set firm limits. They talk to people who help them stay grounded. They guard their emotions. They pull back slowly and carefully. And when nothing else works, they shut the door. These 6 ways are not loud. They are not dramatic. But they are powerful. Because the mind of an INFJ is not up for grabs. It's not a place others get to control. It's personal, sacred, and protected. The people who try to control INFJs often don't see it coming. They think they've won. They think they've taken up space in the INFJ's thoughts. But the moment the INFJ becomes aware, the moment they see the game, that's when it ends. Not with yelling, not with a fight, but with a quiet shift that changes everything. If you're an INFJ, this is your reminder. You don't owe anyone access to your mind. Not if they try to twist it. Not if they try to fill it with noise. You get to choose who stays and who goes. And if someone crosses that line, you already know what to do.